Hey, these are my kids, they came from me. I'm not going to let anybody take them away and, sell them on the streets for whatever. Well, okay, so no.
I believe we only live once, and with that spirit, I lived my life to the fullest without regrets. They were experiences that no one can ever take away from me. They were journeys that are uniquely mine. So long as we open ourselves to new perspectives, the world is our playground. We have all known Evelyn Tan, Chen Yuyun, as one of the top television actresses during the good old days. But little did we know much about her rather low-profile life after she became a full-time mom. That includes living on a boat for 4 years with her entire family. Hi everyone, today's guest speaker, Evelyn Tan. When I get to know her, it's because she attended our class to learn how to invest. And when I saw her as one of our participants, I'm like, really? Evelyn? You might ask, so what's so great about her? Singapore audience, you might heard of this name, Chen Yuyun. Yes. Hi, Evelyn.
Hi, Pauline. How are you? It's so good to be back in your company again.
Yes, thank you for accepting our interview. I think our audiences, especially Singapore audience, really miss you on screen. So some of you would remember Evelyn as being one of the top celebrities in Singapore, especially in the 1990s. Is it 1990s,
That's
2000,
right.
during that period?
I was a Star Search semi-finalist. Yeah, that was in 1997.
Oh.
Yeah, so I went on to do quite a bit before I retired, early retirement.
Well, at the point of time she's so-called retired, she's actually one of the most popular one, and there was even a ranking, I remember. In Chinese we term as Wu Jie. That means she's like the top 5 actresses in Singapore.
I always kid people. I say, 他们讲的这个舞不是1、2、3、4、5，只是我喜欢跳舞。然后每次，在片场 I will have ADHD, I think, so 我就一直会一点 move about 啦，所以他们就叫我吴姐。So no, I thank you all for your the attention that was showered on me, yeah, but no way am I near the 阿姐阿哥, yeah.
So first of all, how did you end up in in the past was called TCS, our national TV in Singapore?
That's right.
Yeah.
That's
so
right.
how do you end up wanting to be in Star Search?
Yeah. Yes. When I joined, it was still TCS. Yeah. That was in 1997. But the strange thing is, all this while, since young, I knew that this was something that I wanted to do. I wanted to act, and I don't know whether you remember back in our days. Maybe back in my days, you're still a bit younger than me, I think. Okay, back in my days, it was the Japanese craze was on.
Yes,
so I had a lot of Japanese actors that I like and actresses that I like. And I would always try to imitate them. And then, there was one particular show I remember that talked about acting as a career, and this person choosing acting as a career. And so I was just mesmerized by the actress and what she personified for me. It was really, I thought, me. And so I really sought out ways and means to make myself hone my acting skills. So I remember every time after school, I don't come back and do homework. Yeah, I don't come back and do homework. I just chuck my bag aside, and then I'll have a friend, usually with me, my best friend, and then we will hide in the room, and then we will remember the lines from last night's drama serial, and then we'll just enact it out. Say, okay, this time around I'll be the father, you be the daughter, and we'll take turns, playing it out. Yeah, that's right. And I progressively went on to more serious, more professional acting by taking on by being a member of my secondary school Chinese Literature and Drama Debate Society.
Wow.
Yeah, so that was my 中文学会.
And we are quite similar, because I was from this Chinese cultural club as well when I was in the junior college, like the high school in Singapore. And yes, I do acting and all this stuff as well. What I did was actually I went to learn how to dance. Since young.
Okay.
And I danced in the TCS in the 90s as well.
You did. We were colleagues before.
Yes. We might, probably, because mine is Chinese dance. Yeah, so I always appear in those, that time in the, there's still those old Chinese drama.
Okay.
Yeah, when I'm always the dancer inside the court scene, and
Right.
every time there was this assassination. So the typical thing that I would do is this, I would just dance, go in circle, and then there's an assassinator, and then we have to run.
Yes.
So that's like that typical scene if you guys remember in Singapore.
You must try and fish out some of these, snippets.
Yeah, don't know whether we
really
can.
interesting.
Yes. So now the thing is you make your dream come true. That's very amazing because you like it.
Yeah.
You still do well in school. I mean, I believe as a good girl of a parent, you still do well in school, make it to university, and you get into Star Search, and of course after that you get quite good results. Everyone remember you.
So, in a short 8 years or so, I actually did quite a lot. Yeah, like, from acting to singing, and to hosting, and then also to newscasting. Yeah, so, it was quite interesting. Yeah, in a short span, I've done so much. And then I remember also, now that you talk about it, actually the other childhood ambition that I have was to be a teacher. Yeah, back in the olden days, I remember very clearly, I would just grab some books, and then I would just have a class of students in front of me, and I would I would give out books, and then call the class monitor, all imaginary, all in my imagination, yeah? Can you please do that? So I was part actress, acting out that role, and then part living out my dream as being a teacher.
That's the reason why I'm sorry, I believe you have acted quite a number of roles, but the two that I always remember is your image in those period drama, in the old Chinese, those period drama, and the other one is actually being a teacher.
Yes, that's
and
right.
you were so popular as being that teacher character. Yeah, that I can still remember right now.
I've been practicing since young.
Yeah, so it's so nice to see women pursuing the dreams that we have since young, right? And you managed to do so and do it quite well, being one of the top actresses, top celebrity in Singapore. Now the question is, why is it that at the peak of the career, you stop doing this? Yeah.
Should I quote my dear friend Wen Fang? 我之后还要追求什么呢？还能期待什么呢？ No. Just kidding. Okay. So what happened was actually, from MediaCorp, all right, I went on to MediaWorks, and after a 4-year stint over there, well, the market conditions just didn't allow that company to continue. And so we merged.
Okay.
And at that point in time, I was newscasting for a year, and I also had a baby in tow. Yeah, we were just newly married. And then, the honeymoon baby came along. So 2005, January 1st, my daughter came. And that was exactly on that day, I was out of job. So I was retrenched.
Your daughter's born on 1st Jan.
Yes. That's
Wow.
right. That's right. Yeah. So now that on the first day of the new year, when I'm officially out of job, I have this new task, new responsibility being placed on me.
Okay.
It's almost like as if, actually, 我没有被裁退 I was
Yeah.
not retrenched, I just moved on to a new career, in a
Yes.
different vocation.
And
Yeah.
subsequently, not only you have one,
Yes.
followed by the second.
It was so fun.
Third,
So I went
and
on to have
fourth.
more.
Yeah. So have you, is this part of your planning together with your hubby Darren?
Well, he wanted 6, so I'm so sorry I had to disappoint him. I see our producer's eyes open wide. Yes, that's right. So we actually planned to have a big family. Yeah, but I told him, I said, okay, we just try that. Let's not just give ourselves a target. It's not like, you have to earn this much money by when, right? Okay, or save up this much to go what? It's really, as we go along, we felt that, it was also our calling. We were also really living out the role of a parent and enjoying every moment of it. Yeah. So after Kristen, my first one, I went on to have Jairus, my boy, 2 years later, and then Wei, 2 years later.
Wow.
And then that was when, it started to take its toll already. Oh, quite a lot. 3 is a crowd, right?
Yeah. I saw it too.
So for us, we kind of waited it out to decide whether, okay, shall we have a 4th? Yeah, because we really wanted a big family. Yeah, we enjoyed that kind of relationship that we had with them. Yeah, and then, okay, Alec came along 4 years later.
So when was the year that your family decided to live on boat?
Okay, so the story has to go backtrack a bit.
Okay.
All right, now Darren is a Hainanese. So being a Hainanese, I think, they have this saying that, Hainan men, they are all seamen. because I think, you know, many years ago, they started that way. They were taken out to sea by merchant ships, you know, and many of the people who took on this role, they were taken on as chefs on board the ships. Yes. So Darren somehow, you know, even though his grandparents, his father is not a seaman and not a chef, all right? But somehow, you know, it's just, I don't know what, it just went into his DNA. So he loves the sea, he loves to cook, and that was how he won my stomach and my heart. and because of that, you know, so he actually started talking to me when we started seriously seeing each other, dating. He said, no, hey, next time let's not live in a house. Shall we just go buy a boat and then, you know, we'll live on board and we have a family there. You know, I look at him, I'm like, are you sure you want to do this? It's so hot, and my goodness, where to go to in Singapore? You know, it's just local waters, not much to see, right? Yeah, so I told him, I say, no lah, I think, you know, it's okay. Yeah, but he was very persistent. You can see that, you know, he has seawater as his blood. Yeah, so he was very persistent. And many years later, as we started growing our kids and we came along into homeschooling our children, we started them quite young, we thought that actually that was a wonderful place to be and a wonderful season in our life to take our children on that adventure together. And then to live on board and to show them that, you know, learning is so fun. And because we're schooling them, right? So it doesn't have to be restricted to 4 walls. It can take you beyond the books that you read and to really experience different cultures, to see people, to experience new things, and to just really set their eyes wide. Yeah.
I had the opportunity to bring our V College graduates to go on this boat trip, which is really fun. Do you know, the moment I stepped on board, I was like, oh my God, how did Evelyn and Darren's children survive on this boat? Because the first thing I thought was danger. I'm sorry. Yeah, because when I go on it, I was like holding on to the...
And it was not moving yet, right?
It was not moving yet. And when we were actually, the boat was moving, there are waves, you see. And okay, we're talking about Singapore water, still not so bad. But you guys are not just in Singapore water. You went over to the big sea, I'm not sure, even the ocean.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So, how's the safety like? Didn't it occur to you that it's dangerous for the children?
Definitely. So that's why I told you, Darren is a very persistent guy. So, you know, as we talked about it, as we broached the topic about, you know, taking the children on a journey to discover the world together, we went through many discussions and we actually talked about, you know, things like piracy, right? Hey, these are my kids, you know, they came from me. I'm not going to let anybody take them away and, you know, sell them on the streets for whatever. Well, okay, so no. And what about
storm?
Yes. Bad weather conditions.
Yeah, bad
How are we
weather.
going to do it? Right?
Yeah.
So actually what we did was then we actually went on to find out more about what it entails to sail, because we've heard stories of families, all right, even with very young children who have done that. So we're thinking to ourselves, you know, well, it's something that I think we want to pursue. Now that we have set a goal, then we just have to make sure that, you know, all that doubts can be allayed. But if there are reasonable solutions to all these doubts that we have, then I think, you know, why not? Let's give it a chance. Let's give it a shot, right? This is something that it's all about pursuing dreams, right? Yeah, if you have a dream and you set your goals to it, then, you know, you just try and find ways and means to materialize that. Elliot was just less than 2 at that point in time where we were sailing. So we had to bring the car seat, put it in the boat, and then strap the car seat onto the boat pole, and then strap him in when the waters got a bit choppy. Yeah, so he was really under 24/7 surveillance by me. Yeah.
How about the rest?
But the rest are already older. So these kids, they are also water safe, so water confident. Yeah, but we explain to them and we tell them that, you know, this is really your life at stake, and we're going on this journey, we're bringing you to see the world, and we do not want to miss you halfway. All right? Yeah. So, and I think because of that, you know, they have that maturity that came along because of the circumstances that needed that maturity. So they rose up.
So
they
how
rose
long
up
were
to
you
it.
on board? Like the family?
we stayed there for about 4 years.
So 4 full years is always on the boat, or sometimes it's like certain months on land and then back on board.
So we had to acclimatize first, and also we had to, you know, suss out whether this was really something for us. So initially we just bought a small boat. So it was a mono hull, that means to say just 一个单体, one body only, yeah, with a keel below, and we live on board. So living space was really tight. It was even smaller than a Soho apartment, I think. Yeah, there were only 2 rooms. So we had 3 kids because it was so small right at the time. 3 kids at the time. We squeezed them in one room, the bigger one, and then us on the bow. So that one was smaller, but good for 2 people. But we have everything inside. Our computer, whatever. Even their toys. We were able to have some toy space for them. Then later on, we realized that, okay, after 9 months, I think we can do it, all right? Things seems to be doable. But we thought, okay, maybe then we upgrade to a bigger boat lah, huh? Okay, so we went on to get a catamaran. So a catamaran is actually a boat with 2 bodies. So we have a more living space, and there is a platform in between that joins the 2 bodies. Yeah. So with that, that was the one that you went on to.
Yes.
Yes. After taking the trip up to Phuket, we came back. We let the season change. We waited for the season to change, the wind to be in the direction that we wanted to go. We went up to Koh Samui, which was a little bit further. So up the other side of the peninsula of Malaysia to go to Koh Samui. And that was when we met with our so-called worst fear lah. There was a big, terrible storm. Yeah. So that was the other concern that we needed to be addressed, right? Yeah, before we set sail. So we talked to sailors, who have been there, done that, and they assured us that during the season, you choose the right season to go, you would hardly meet with any bad weather. All right. So we went there, and then I think just a week before we set off, we even asked our friend who worked with the Navy. Yeah, asked them, hey, so how was it? Just came back from South China Sea. How was the condition? Oh, don't worry, it's pristine clear. It's like like a mirror. It's very calm. Don't worry. But then it struck us. No, freak weather conditions do happen, and we were so lucky to be met with, I think, 8 storms in the 24 hours. So it just came very suddenly. Darren saw the dark clouds, told us, okay, brace for bad weather. All right, so all of us closed our doors and everything. And then, we not went to hiding, but then you just make sure that, everything was secured. So, and I had my baby with me, right? So this time around, we cannot put him on the pole outside with the car seat already because, it's going to be wet and uncomfortable. So, okay, come in, Elliot. So, I had to entertain him, find things to do with him. And it was 24 hours, can you imagine?
So it was like choppy?
It was choppy, yeah. It was, I think the waves reached about 4 or 5 meters, and it was just very uncomfortable.
Sorry, I just imagine this as, pardon my imagination and my ignorance about boat living. Have you ever thought of what if the boat capsized?
Okay. That gave us the confidence that we'll ride it through. But even then, I must tell you frankly, back there, when we were in that ship, I was praying. I was really praying. Okay, please don't let this be the last day, on Earth. Yeah.